Hey, what's going on YouTube? For those of you who don't know me, I am a Smite Twitch streamer. I stream over at twitch.tv/dashboard with two R's almost every single day. I am a Grandmaster support player. I'm also in the Smite Minor League, the SEC, and I'm actually about to head over in a couple days to play-ins to hopefully get spawned in SPL. So we'll see. But for this video today, I just kind of want to show you guys a tier list, a support tier list I made that I think is pretty good so far. Um, this is at the beginning of season 10, so 10.1 to 10.2. This will probably change, over the course of the season. So hopefully, I'll be making other videos very similar to this one. But let's go ahead and get right into it. So, uh, for your different tiers, I kind of you have S, A, B, C, D, F, and I also actually added something a little bit extra. What I thought each category needed, because realistically, what is like a tier? What defines the tier? So for S tier, I typically have controllers. So these are characters that I feel like are super heavy team fight controllers that really contribute a lot to a team fight, with some exceptions, of course. Each category will have some exceptions. Heavy initiators, these are characters that I feel like initiate well. Again, some exceptions. You guys see like Ardio in there, Atlas in there, so on and so forth. Terra as well. Um, B tier is a backline mix. Oops, did not mean to do that. A backline mix. So these are gonna be more like characters that kind of help out the backline a little bit. C are niche picks. So these are picks that they're not gonna be top picks, but these are picks that could go really well in some games. You just have to see. D are picks that I just don't think are currently good right now. It doesn't mean they're never good. I just don't think they're good right now. And then F is just never play. I left that one blank because just have fun with it. Play whatever you want. But so let's start off with the S tiers. So first here we have Maui. Maui I feel like is pretty self-explanatory, even with the character nerfs that he got. Maui is still an insane initiator character and an insane team fight controller. He can start any fight with his ult, probably the best initiation in the game. And then obviously he has his 2, which gives prots and MS to everybody. He's got a sick AoE stun that also kind of zones out a particular area while he's swinging in the air, right? Like nobody wants to go underneath that. And of course he has his little pluck as well, to help stop frontline from killing his backline, to help CC them essentially. So Maui's gonna stay in S tier. This character's kit is just way too good. Similar to Maui, Yamoja as well. We're gonna skip over these two. Yamoja also still very very good S tier character. Um, I'm gonna assume each character pick is kind of played at its highest level. So if we assume that Yamoja, of course, is like you can have a lot of really bad players with her. But Yamoja for the most part, she's just gonna be insane. Her 2 shields and heals your allies. She can start fights with her hoop. She can even disengage fights with her hoop as well, right? Like after you get a Phoenix, you can just run all your backline or sorry, all your team down lane, and they can't really chase you, right? It's too fast. She can separate a team fight with her ult. She can even control by blocking off corridors. She can control the team fight. So she is a huge controller, probably the best controller in the game. Yamoja is just gonna be insane. Um, Next I have Athena. So Athena is she's pretty much a heavy initiator, and the reason why I have her, like I said, there's gonna be some exceptions here. The reason why I have her up here in S tier is because with the recent buffs to Athena, actually that happened back in season 9, giving her 35% damage mitigation on her ult when she ults to allies, giving her the damage mitigation to herself while she's ulting, and of course the reduced cooldown on her taunt from 18 to 16 as she levels it up. She can start fights really, really well. Besides Maui out, she's probably the like one of the, if not the best support initiator in the game, right? You just dash to close that gap. You don't need blink at all. You just dash and then you taunt. Super easy ability to hit, 2 second CC, that they're kind of essentially locked in place, right? That your team can easily hit them. The other thing about Athena too is her map play is insane. You can kind of camp any lane and be anywhere else on the map. So you can kind of misposition yourself to make it hard for the enemies to play the map, and then pretty much your ult is a get out of jail free card, or it's a hey, the fight's going on in solo side, I'm in duo side, let me help out my duo laner, then ult over to solo kind of deal. So she actually does control the map pretty well. But in team fights, she's mainly just an initiator. Uh, but I have her in S tier because she's just honestly too good to not be here. Bacchus is another similar one to this. Bacchus, again, isn't really too much of a team fight controller. but Bacchus does initiate fights very well. And right now, in season 10, there's a whole thing about mitigations being insane, right? You have Prophetic Cloak, you have Lono's Mask, you have buffed Oni Hunter's Garb, right? Instead of 9% mitigations, you're getting 12%. So the thing about Bacchus is Bacchus already has 10% mitigations built in to his kit, right? His one fills up his passive, and he's going to get those mitts. So with that, building things like Sparrow, building things like Oni Hunter's Guard, Prophetic Cloak, all that, you just have this like insane tankiness to you, and you can jump into the middle of a team fight to start the fight. They can focus you, and you're gonna take very little damage relative to other supports or other characters in the game. And so you just have this like insane value of starting the fight and living through it too, as well as insane CC. I mean, Bacchus from level 2 starts off with 2 CC abilities, right? His flop and his stun. So from level 2 onwards, he just kind of scales. He starts off the game really well and then just kind of scales into late game. This character is just in an insanely good spot right now. Had to put him in S tier. The last character in S tier is Ymir. So this character has been a character that I've thought to be an 8/S tier caliber for really the last year or two, ever since they buffed his wall. So ever since they allowed Ymir to cancel his wall, he has just been an insane character. I think that was towards the end of season 7 or so it's really been a couple years. But even with the recent nerfs to Ymir wall, decreasing the duration from 6 to 4.5 seconds, as well as increasing the cooldown overall, this character does control team fights, right? He can wall off huge corridors. He can run up, like walk up to start a fight. He can force the enemy team to kind of go into specific ways because of his wall. Realistically, like the whole control of the fight really comes from Ymir wall. It's kind of like Emoji Hoop in a sense. She can block off corridors, prevent people from going, um, going through those corridors, and she can disengage. Ymir's the same way, right? He can engage with the wall to block off corridors, and he can also disengage his team with the wall as well, right? You block off a corridor when they're pushing you, and then you guys or the enemy team can't push through there, or they're forced to use leaps, jumps, things that they don't want to have to use or waste to kind of chase you or to get away from your wall. So Ymir is, as long as he has that ability, the ability to cancel his wall, and everything else in his kit too, like 10% damage reduction on everybody he hits. That's always going to be useful for everybody, right? Not just yourself. It's a selfless passive, which is nice. 2 massive slow abilities and 1 stun, which is one of the longest stuns in the game. It's like 2.25 seconds. I mean, this character is just always going to be good as long as he has that kit. Mini nerfs here and there will obviously make him a little bit worse, but nothing that's going to take him out of these 2 tiers, in my opinion. He'll always stay here until they like really like nerf the wall, maybe not let you cancel it anymore, or like reduce it to like 2 seconds instead of 4.5, something like that. He'll always be up here. So with that out of the way, now we get to A tier. So one of the first characters in A tier that I've actually really liked this season, who hasn't been good for a while, is Sobek. Now Sobek actually received 2 nice little buffs to his ult. The first buff is they increase the protections that he gets in his ult from 15% of his total protections to 20%. Doesn't seem like that much, but it is in the long run, especially since it's going based off his percentage protections. So, late game, it's going to really scale up. The other thing they did to his ult, which is really, really good, is his ult was at a 25% slow at all ranks. And what they did is they made it 30% base slow. So at level 1 ult, you get a 30% base slow, and it actually scales up to 40% when you hit level 20. When you get that last point into the ult. That's like super, super good. Sobek can start a team fight. He's a heavy initiator. He can start a team fight by blink plucking in or just plucking in, whatever the case. He can burn beads, burn escapes, or just pluck somebody into your team and, have them die, of course. And then he can ult right after that. And you have this massive zoning ult where you're really tanky. I think it lasts for about 5 or 6 seconds. This 40% slow field. It's like a moving Ymir ult, right? Like Ymir ult is also 40% slow, but Sobek can actually move the field around the enemy. So he has this crazy zoning potential with that. So super great initiator. I think this character is really, really good as of season 10. Season 9 wasn't really that good, but as of season 10, I think he is definitely up there. Another character I really, really like is Artio. Now, Ardio she's not really a super heavy initiator, but like she can initiate pretty well, especially if you buy Blink on her. You know, you just Blink stun, Blink bear stun. The thing that makes Ardio a lot better this season than last season, in my opinion, is she uses the new items really well. So Ardio is a character that's always really, really like cooldown. She she loves Prophetic Cloak. Her 3 is a great poking tool, so she can actually get those Prophetic Cloak stacks super easily, and the cooldown from Cloak is really, really nice on her. And then Sickle, which is the old Lotus Crown, is really nice, and now also has CDR as well. So they kind of reworked Lotus Crown a little bit, but made it better, like a better rework. And she just uses both those items really well. It makes her a much better like support than she was back in season 9, in my opinion. And then being able to go things like Onis, which also gives MP5 because again Onis got buffed, so it's super nice. All that just makes her a lot better this season. She abuses the items well. Um, Atlas. So this is a character I actually really enjoy. Don't see him played as much as I plan, but I have a lot of success with him. He's one of the exceptions. He's not a super heavy initiator at all. Actually, he's mostly like a mid lane, not mid lane, a mid fight like player. He kind of plays in the middle of the fight. He actually peels for his backline really well. He can 3 his backline, which gives him pretty much like a sprint and slow immunity, which is insane. Like a 35% speed boost for like 4 seconds. It's such an insane ability. Um, but he can also kind of go up and start the fight with his 1-2, or even start the fight with his 2 as well if the enemies are too close. And his 2 is like a mini Sobek pluck. You kind of hold him in place and you know, push him backwards. I think Alice is in a really good spot right now, being able to protection shred as well, just giving your carries more damage with his ult. And also objective burn, all that kind of stuff that he has. It just fits well with the current meta. So nothing more really to explain about him, but I just feel like he's A tier. It's not good enough to be S tier, but I do feel like he is an A tier character. Kobraken. Kobraken is kind of like a bit of a budget Bacchus. Um, Kobraken has felt really good this season. He's really tanky. Just like Bacchus, he has percent mitigation as his passive. This one's a little bit of an aura, right? It gives 5% to him and nearby allies. Bacchus is 10%, so Bacchus is actually double the mitigations. And then Kabrakan also has a passive 30 prots as a passive as part. It's a passive as part of his 2. Bacchus has 35 prots on his 1. So like I said, he's kind of budget Bacchus, right? Bacchus just kind of does what he does, but a little bit better. He's a little bit more tankier. But the thing about Kabrakan, which is nice, is he gets a little bit of control in a fight. He's not per se a controller like Ymir is, but he does get control in the fight with his ult. His ult is a nice little wall to be able to trap people in place, block off corridors, those kinds of things. But it's not like as readily available as a Ymir wall or a Yemoja hoop. Um, but he can like really just kind of go up, get in your face, get in the enemy team's face. He can stun twice, and like I said, trap people in, and he's pretty tanky about it too. So a little bit of a budget Bacchus, but he's a nice initiator. So Terra is kind of like a mixture of an initiator and she's kind of like Atlas a little bit, I'd say. Um, she can start a fight with her 2. Her 2 is her stun, and she can pretty much blink in also and ult the enemy team. So she has a couple ways to kind of deal with a fight. I think Terra's actually really good right now. She's just a massive team fight character. Um, she can initiate. She can play backline. She gives your allies damage mitigation. She also uses and debuffs the enemy by making them take increased damage with their ult. But she also uses Lotus Sickle just like Ardio really well as well. So she uses some of these items super well, which is what I like about her. So these would be my S and A tier character picks so far. Maybe as the season progresses, we might move some of these guys down and move some of these guys up. But currently, this is kind of where I'm standing at. So B is my backline mix. Nox, Eset, these characters I'm just gonna kind of do together because they kind of do the same thing. Eset, I'd say I like a little bit more than Nox. Eset is super team oriented. She can 3 enemies, so she can actually kind of start fights. Her fight start isn't the best, which is why she's not an A tier, or one of the reasons why. She can start the fight with a spirit ball. It's not always going to hit, of course. It's a slow moving projectile, but you can definitely start a fight with that stun. You can also start a fight with your silence, which is pretty good. And her silence also gives shields to everybody. Now, what's nice about this is if you're going ESET support and you're going heroism, which by the way is the best support relic in the game, in my opinion. I use it almost every game. The only games I would not use it is if they don't really have any CC. But ESET with heroism, you're giving so many shields out, right? You can 3 enemies, give all the allies around you a nice shield, and then all of a sudden, if they get stunned, they also get a shield from heroism. And on top of that, you can buy shell, which you probably should be doing on ESET anyways. Um, and then you give them another shield from that, and then you also have things like your ult, which gives all allies in the radius 25% damage mitigation and then heals them a little bit. Now, since your support ESET, you're not going to be healing too much. So kind of like going past the heal, you're still giving all your allies in that range 25% damage mitigation. So you can play backline like super, super, super well. Nox is pretty similar to that. Nox has really good CC just like ESET, right? She's got a silence, she's got a root. Nox is actually used sometimes to counter ESET in support. Because she can silence her out of ESET's Wing Gust, and then she can also just root her, and she doesn't really care about CC because her root stays there even if she's getting CC'd, which is nice. But the other thing about Nox too is her ult reduces, if she hits an enemy, it kind of works like a mirror passive, but on a scale of ×4 essentially. If she hits an enemy with her ults, they do 40% reduced damage, which is pretty much like your allies having 40% damage mitigation versus them, if that makes sense. So she does she can support pretty well. She also uses Lonos in the mitigation build that everybody's going, like prophetic cloak and all that stuff. She uses that super, super well. I was playing her the other day and I felt unkillable. Level 20 Hebo hit me with his ult for like 192. 192 level 20 Hebo ult. What the hell? So she's super fun. Definitely would mess around with her. And she's a nice little backline support as well. So Kumba is actually another character that recently got a nerf, or not a nerf, sorry, a buff rather. So Kumba's buff is that his 2, which is his wind back to a root, that now cripples in addition to rooting. This is actually a really big buff. And the reason why I haven't really put him higher on the list is because root's still DR. If you guys don't know what DR is diminishing returns. Smite has this for CC, so you can't like get super, super heavily locked down. Essentially, every time you take a hard CC, which is like a stun, a mez, a root, those kinds of things, you get 1 stack of DR. And that 1 stack provides you 20% CC reduction up to 4 stacks, by the way. So you can have 5 stacks, but you can have up to 4, so 80%. But you get 20% CC reduction on the next ability that CCs you within like 15 seconds or whatever, and it refreshes. So the problem with Kumba is that, you know, you mez people, you can root people, but if they're really super CC, they're going to get out of that root really, really quickly. And Kumba has super long animations. I mean, the wind back time on his root alone is like 2 seconds long, right? So if you're winding back for 2 seconds, you smash the root, all of a sudden it roots him for 0.5. That just feels terrible. So Kumba, like, his animations are just too long for me to put anything above B tier, to be honest with you. He might even be C tier, but I think the cripple does make him at least B tier because it is a really, really nice buff for him to have. They also buffed his passive by nerfing the duration, so now he kind of gets his passive up in almost like every fight, which is super, super nice. I think that's like 140 seconds now or something like that, about as fast as Yemo. Sylvanas. Sylvanas actually is a character. Other supports around my level actually have him higher, but I have him at B tier because I still don't think Sylvanas is like the best. He does get countered pretty hard by characters like Sobek Bacchus. They can just kind of like put him out of position, or Sobek especially can put him out of position in a fight, and just have him die. But what Sobek uses really well is Lotus Sickle, like Ardio and Terra, which is nice, and his 2, which is like 30 prots. So that with Lotus Sickle being 15 prots, those together, sorry for talking so much, but those together is like 45 prots total, right? That combined with all the auras that you can currently buy, Sylvanas is going to keep your backline alive for a very long time. This character is pretty good. He gets lane pressure in lane, just because he has AoE autos, and he does have like really good sustain, and he does have decent late game team fight. But I just can't put him above B tier because I just don't feel like he's as good as these other characters, and I feel like he's kind of in the league with these as well. He has a backline support mix, and he, like, that's what he is essentially. You can definitely like hit some sick, nasty pulls, but I just can't see him being an A tier or S tier. Okay, so Fafnir, this character I really, really like. This is one of my favorite supports, Fafnir and Khepri, actually. But Fafnir kind of just, the problem with Fafnir is he plays the mid fight, but he doesn't really have the best early game. Fafnir does not have the best early game, and he just kind of, um, how can I put this? He doesn't really have good clear. His hammer is like okay, he can kind of like CC people in lane, but it's not the best. So where Fafnir is really good is when it comes to kind of like the mid game and to the early as well. He's not the best scaler late, but sorry, not the early, the late. He's not the best scaler late, but like he is still pretty good. The thing I like about Fafnir and the reason why he's in B tier, not C tier, is that if you are hitting your CC in fights, especially with Med is a big relic right now. It is a super useful relic because of the CDs, like the cooldowns. Um, Fafnir can feel really good and really oppressive. Um, you can hammer, transform, stun again, then stun again because he has 2 stuns in his dragon transform. Then you can pop Med, which gives 6 seconds reduction on all your CDs, and then have those 2 stuns back up, very very quickly. You know, within the span of like 4 or 5 seconds. So this character can feel super super oppressive, if you can nail his stuff. So Khepri's an interesting character on this list because I thought Khepri was gonna be like an S tier character. When season 10 first dropped, I thought he was gonna use heroism really well. It seemed like it was like a lot of prots, so like support, backline, prot, auras, all that kind of jazz. Like Khepri's super nice. Khepri, the problem with Khepri, I think, is that he just doesn't fit this initiation style build too well, and this is really what makes a support really good right now. And Khepri doesn't really have that. He has a long range root, and that's about it, right? You're not really going to start a fight with a root. I mean, you could, but like, what does that really accomplish? It's not like heavy lockdown or anything like that. So he does play the backline really well, but he just doesn't have what these characters have to make him outside of B tier, in my opinion. Um, Other people I think he's like C tier or below. I don't think he's quite that bad. I do think he's still pretty good, like pretty playable, pretty good, especially his backline support. Shoot, he's my favorite support in the game, but it's just not 100% his meta right now, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I'm not gonna go over like all these characters here, but essentially this is the niche category. I've never found Ares to be really that good. He gets countered super hard by Ymir, by Kabrakan, those kinds of characters, but in like Issa too, and Nox. But he does, and I guess Sylvanas too. But he does have his play. He is like he's a decent character for sure. He's got good lockdown, but he's not a character that you're gonna like top one or top two pick. Uh, you're gonna want to bottom one or bottom two him because he is more of like a counter character, right? Oh, they have a Hu Yi mixed with an Erlang Shen jungle, like Hu Yi ADC Erlang Shen jungle. They have, I don't know, like a Khepri support, that kind of stuff. Ares could be super good there, right? Ares would be like an S tier pick into that draft, but he's a niche pick because it's draft dependent, like super draft dependent. You're never really gonna pick him like in the top part of your drafts. So I just think he's in C tier for that reason. And then everybody else, kind of like the same thing. Kuzumbo's like a budget Sobek. Sobek's just much better than Kuzumbo currently, but he kind of can do the same thing that Sobek does, just not nearly as well. Um, and then yeah, I mean, you just have all these other characters. I feel like are just niche picks into certain comps. Jing is just Jing can be really good into say like going against a Mercury who's currently meta right now, because he can reduce Mercury's auto attack by 50%. But that's about it. D is not good. Um, Horus, I actually think is and he does abuse binding honestly really well. But the problem with Horus is he's just not a good late game support. And he just falls off too much. Too many games are going late game for me to consider him to be like a good support in this meta. Geb doesn't have the pressure. Sorry, Geb, we love you. We really do. You just don't have any pressure at all. ADCs hate laning with you. It's unfortunate. um, Ganesh kind of the same boat as Geb, honestly. Which is funny because Horus actually has an absurd amount of pressure, just can't scale well. So, but this is essentially what I think currently the support meta is looking like. If I were you, and you're definitely trying to say rank up and ranked or something like that, try to stick to these A, or not A, but S through B. I would stick with these characters. I've won a lot of games with Capri. I've lost a lot of games with Capri. I've won way more games with, say, Ymir or somebody like that, in Sobek than I've lost. So, but guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I haven't really been doing YouTube too much, but I want to get more into it. Hopefully, after this play-ins tourney, we can start creating some more videos. We'll see. We'll see. But like I said, I stream just about every single day on Twitch. Over at twitch.tv/dashboard with 2 R's. So if you guys like the content and want to check me out, head on over there and hit me with a follow. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Peace out.